There's something about nighttime with a toddler that feels like the perfect combination between a beautiful, chaotic, and completely unpredictable experience. 1 minute we're playing and laughing, the next minute I'm saying, okay, it's time to get ready for bed, approximately 17 times or more. But I've actually started to really appreciate this part of the day because my little one is almost 3 now, and we're entering the stage where the bedtime routine is becoming less about me doing everything for her and more about teaching her how to participate and taking care of herself. So tonight I'm gonna bring y'all along for our realistic toddler nighttime routine. It's not gonna be perfectly staged. It's literally just going to be her bath time that we just finished. Obviously, I'm not showing y'all bath time. So after bath time, we do a lot of skincare, pajamas, books, cuddles, prayers, and then sleep. Right now, you see me getting her together with all the essentials, and most of it is about identifying the fact that bedtime with a toddler is all about seamless transitions. So if I suddenly announce that it's bedtime while we're completely immersed in whatever she's doing, I'm basically setting myself up for a negotiation. And I really don't have time for that. So I like to insert a little bit of warnings of, okay, when we're finished with this, we're going to do, all right, so in another 10 minutes or so, we're going to head upstairs and start bath time. And honestly, sometimes she doesn't always agree, but you're the one in charge. So I give her the transition time so we can ease into it a little bit more. At almost 3, she's also starting to understand routine so much more. She knows that certain things happen in a certain order. And I think there's something really comforting about that predictability for toddlers. So the things that I didn't catch on camera are things like she goes to get her towel, she goes to get her washcloth. She actually knows how to go get the little pod for her bubble bath. She knows to throw her toys in, and she also understands the process of her skincare routine afterwards. I know it sounds crazy for an almost 3-year-old to truly be able to articulate what's happening, but I promise you we've done it enough. And like my auntie says, children, especially younger kids, are somewhat like animals. You can train them to do anything. I promise. Now, as we're doing all of this extra lotion and pajamas, it's a lot of encouragement of just pouring into her affirmations and also talking about how to put on her pajamas. Sometimes I actually let her choose which pajamas she wants. And then it's also things like sometimes I put on the lotion and she actually like rubs it in. Now, is this process always efficient? No. Is it sometimes much more messier? Absolutely. But teaching her independence, taking the time to be patient with her and allowing her to learn about her body and her processes is something that I appreciate. And sometimes allowing her to take that extra 5 minutes to do something herself is way more valuable than me doing it for her in 30 seconds, because we're not just getting ready for bed. We're teaching her little pieces of how to simply take care of herself. And that leads me to the self-care portion of this routine. Maybe it's brushing her teeth, which I didn't record. And other times it's about her putting on her socks, putting on her t-shirt, putting on her bonnet. Whatever it is, I want her to feel confident. I want her to feel the level of independence, but I also want her to know that maybe she doesn't have it all together, and that's where she's able to say, "Mommy, help." And I'm always going to be there for her. So mommy gets a turn to make sure everything is actually getting done efficiently and effectively. And I think that this is another area where routines really help. We're building these habits now that I hope she will actually eventually become second nature to her to do it herself. And because self-care isn't something I want her to associate with being a grown-up or having a certain appearance, I truly want her to understand that taking care of yourself is simply part of taking care of yourself. Now, once she's fully settled, for the most part, I try to take a few moments to reset the space, and it's nothing major at all. So it's doing things like putting her toys and items in the place that they deserve to be. It's never going to be a full cleaning. That's honestly not happening. But putting the things back where they belong, turning off unnecessary lights, and just getting the house ready for the next morning. That also includes getting her clothes ready for the next day. This is also usually when I start to think about my own bedtime routine, because mother has definitely taught me that if I don't intentionally create space for myself, honey, I can very easily spend the entire evening taking care of everybody else in this house and then realizing it's midnight and I haven't done a thing for myself. So even if it's just washing my face, doing my skincare, drinking some water, or sitting quietly for 5 minutes, I also try to make sure that part of the routine is for me as well. On Sundays, bath time does start earlier in the day. So she's able to go back downstairs and play. But before we head upstairs for that official wind down, we usually do a quick cleanup down there. And when I say we, I really mean I clean up while attempting to convince her to come upstairs. This is where we also have to fight in order to get her to actually want to wind down. And this is also where I get that sleep spray ready because, girl, you about to go lay it down. Now, a lot of this routine is not about perfection because my baby is almost 3. She's not 15. So if she only puts away some of the toys, that's cool. But I'm learning in motherhood that it's much more about adjusting my expectations. And there are things that used to feel like they had to be done a certain way. But now, girl, I'm realizing that sometimes the goal is simply to get through the moment with everyone's sanity intact. Now we are officially in the wind down portion of the night. The lights will be lower once reading time is over. The pajamas are on, the house is much quieter, and we're heading into one of my favorite parts of the routine, books. I really love this stage because it's one of the easiest ways to slow everything down. There's no rushing around, there's no cleaning, there's no multitasking. We are literally just sitting together and reading and spending quality time. And even though she may not remember every book we read when she's older, I hope she remembers how it felt. Safe, loved, comfortable, and like she had my full attention. Story time with the toddler is never exactly what you think it's going to be. Sometimes she listens, sometimes she interrupts every 3 seconds, sometimes she wants the same book over and over again. And sometimes we get halfway through a story and suddenly we're discussing something completely unrelated. But that's okay. These little moments are the routine. And I think that's what I'm learning about motherhood in general. It's not necessarily the big moments that make up childhood. It's these everyday moments that happen over and over again. Baths, books, pajamas, cuddles, bedtime kisses. The things that seem ordinary right now may eventually become the memories I miss the most. At this point, you'll notice that she is starting to wind down. This is how I know that this is probably the last book that we're going to read. She does think I'm Lucy the librarian, and she makes me read like 6 books sometimes. But whenever she leans into my chest a little bit more, she gets her teddy bear or she requests her blanket. I know that we're enjoying reading this book, but this book is also serving as my instant lullaby to get her to sleep as soon as possible. And that's literally the focus of a lot of what I try to do here. I don't always try to make this such an intentional moment, but one that is productive and still creates an experience. She enjoys this more than I think I actually realize, and I just want to make sure that I'm doing a great job of leaning into that. Now, after these books, we do our final goodbyes, and then we get tucked in and we make sure her favorite things are nearby. And then comes the part where I say, okay, it's time to close your eyes. And she somehow discovers approximately 12 extremely important things she needs to tell me. But eventually we do get there. And when I walk out the room, there's always this little moment where I realize how quickly she's growing up. Because she's almost 3. 3! And I feel like I blinked and somehow we got here. And I think that's why I'm trying to be more intentional about these routines, because this season won't last forever. One day, she won't need me to remind her to brush her teeth. She won't need me to pick out her pajamas. She won't even ask me to read the same book 5 nights in a row. And I'm sure one day I'll look back and wonder how I ever wished bedtime would move a little bit faster. So I'm trying to remember to actually just be present for it, even on the nights when I'm exhausted, even when she's testing every ounce of my patience, even when bedtime is taking longer than I'm interested in, because these are the days, not the perfect days, the real ones, and I don't want to rush them so quickly that I start to forget to enjoy them. So that's what a typical nighttime routine looks like for us right now. It's not perfect. It's not always peaceful. And sometimes bedtime takes way longer than it should, but it's hours. And as my little one gets closer and closer to 3, I'm realizing that routines aren't just about getting through the day. They're about creating little moments of security, connection, and consistency. And honestly, I'm trying to give myself that same grace because I'm learning how to take care of her while also remembering to take care of me. So if you're in the toddler stage too, I hope this reminds you that you don't have to have a perfect routine. Find what works for your family. Keep the things that bring you peace. Let go of the things that don't, and give yourself grace on the nights when everything goes completely off schedule.